Well, there goes the Daverhood. Good morning, everybody, and welcome on this rainy, it's been rainy all week, but rainy December 14th, 2019 for a brand new and illin episode of the Dave's Gone By Facebookio Podcastio Programmio of a stream with me, Dave Lefkowitz. So here's the deal, folks. This is podcasting. It's not live television. It's not live theater. It's not multi-million-dollar anything. So why not, I thought to myself. I feel like hell. I've got a miserable head cold that just came on to me all day yesterday. It came on to me and bought me flowers, in fact, all day yesterday, continuing into today, a little better sometimes, a little worse. And I thought, do I fake it? Do I just make believe I don't have it? Do I not even do a show? Which, believe me, I was considering at certain points. And then I'm like, you know what? You guys are all friends now. You're all, you tune in week after week, and I thank you for that, to see what I'm up to see what I'm doing, to hear me do some comedy, to hear me talk about the theater. Sometimes we'll do interviews and stuff. So why not play it real? Why not do a show when I feel and look like absolute hell? And so it's rather appropriate, since I'll be talking a little bit about the death of Carol Spinney, that I've got Muppet eyes today. Like the lids are puffy and half closed. And I'm just trying to get the words out. So sometimes I'll be perfectly fine, which is the way colds go. And other times it'll be like, I can barely say anything for having to go into a coughing jag. So it's going to be real interesting. It's going to be a kind of a different Dave's Gone By. And I want to see if that whole Dr. Theater thing kicks in, because quite a few years ago, we had a singer, Maud Maggart is her name, Maud Maggart, cabaret kind of pop singer, and she was saying that, I don't know how we got onto the topic, but when you have a cold and you just can't move all day, and you barely have a voice, and you're just coughing up phlegm, and you just want to be sick and miserable, but you have to go on stage. That's what you're paid to do. That's what you love to do. So what happens? And she said, 10 seconds before you hit the footlights, something called Dr. Theater kicks in. And no matter how awful you've been feeling, and no matter how terrible your voice was all day, or you don't even have a voice, suddenly something happens. And, you go on there, and only you can really tell that you're under the weather and not par for the, because your voice is fine, and your acting is fine, and your movements are perfectly fine. No, it's more than adrenaline. That's my darling and adorable wife, Joyce, by the way. I don't know what it is, but there's something in you that says, okay, this has got to be done, and the spotlight's on you. Because I went to work sick yesterday. Right now, I'm feeling better. Yes. Not 100%. I was like, bleh, but better than I was 45 minutes ago. Yes. Certainly better than I was all night, and better than I was yesterday. But I'm at the office. I've got to, if I want to take sick leave or sick day for that, I will get paid. So, you're in the office all day, and this doesn't kick in. All of a sudden, I'm stumbling around, I'm coughing, I'm sneezing, I'm throwing out my back and my shoulders every time I cough. But you don't get that same thing of like, whoa, I've got a podcast to do. I got people watching. I've got folks who want to laugh a little bit, want to have a nice Saturday morning with me, Dave Lefkowitz, and boom, my eyes are already more open than they were 2 minutes ago. Yes, they are. Think about it. Yeah, as is my anus, which is I really don't want to talk about that. Nothing new there. Well, Joyce says nothing new there. What I do want to mention to you, of course, is that this is the Dave's Gone By Facebook. Oh, here comes the first sneeze of the day. Here it comes.
Cover. Don't sneeze on me.
Oh, I want to sneeze on the camera. Cover. I'll play the intro music while I do this.
Good morning. There goes the Daverhood.
Under what luxury, Joyce?
Did your meds kick in yet?
We got David Lefkowitz here. He's a Long Island arts guy. He's got his own radio show.
I want you all to really enjoy a wonderful program done by a fine artist.
A glorious thing of unparalleled beauty.
Dave's Gone By. Dave is one of my very favorite broadcasters, so keep on listening to Mr. Dave.
Tropical hot dog night. Like two flamingos in a fruit fight.
Well, as I said, we are here in the Daverhood on this Saturday morning with our 724th episode of the Dave's Gone By Facebook podcast, Programmio of the stream. Welcome, by the way, to Cousin Cynthia. Yay. We are going to be doing our Today-Yesterday quiz, which is kind of a cool thing. Since it's December 14th, all the questions will have to do with things that happen in history on December 14th. So it's kind of a fun trivia thing. You get to play against Cynthia and Jeff, who are apparently my cousins, my married cousins. And I think I told the story that maybe a week or two ago I was on the Long Island Railroad and actually met their son completely out of the blue. I'll tell it quickly again because my head is all over the place at the moment. But I'm literally riding the Long Island Railroad, hand my ticket to the ticket taker. And he says, "Oh my God, you do that show?" I'm like, "Yes, I do." "What show?" And he said, "On the podcast on Saturdays." And I said, yeah. And then he said, "My parents watch," because God forbid he shouldn't watch it, but my parents watch it all the time. And we went from being absolute strangers of me like, "Oh, here, take my money, Mr. Long Island Railroad conductor," to realizing that this was my cousin that I don't think I've ever met.
Wow.
So kind of a cool thing there. But it's great to have Cynthia, who says that you do look better since you started talking, right? That something you. This is my first cough of the morning.
Please use hanky.
I am using it.
No, you're not.
Yeah. And what's kind of cool, that these are my pajamas, and this is my handkerchief. Do you think I like this? Is a complete. Joyce doesn't believe this, but this is an absolute coincidence, an absolute non-planned. Well, what's the word? Coincidence is the word.
Happenstance.
I love the color brown, but it's not like I'm particularly just chose brown plaid as my go-to. But I went shopping about a week ago in Forest Hills, and what they had was these pajamas. I didn't really have any other medium pajamas, so I grabbed them, and they're pretty great, but my favorite color. But I got these plaid brown pajamas. This handkerchief is a couple of years old. I'm so sorry. This is really ruining your morning breakfast, isn't it? And I actually got at the same place that I was shopping in last week in Forest Hills a couple of brown plaid shirts because that's all they really had that I was interested in. So people must be thinking that I'm obsessed right now with the brown plaid clothing. I am not. I am, however, obsessed, as you might know, with potatoes. So something quite wonderful happened this week. I mean, despite my miserable head cold, and by the way, welcome to Warhol and Glory and all the folks who are watching right now, but something very beautiful has occurred. One of the most beautiful things ever. First of all, you do know that I love the potatoes that I talk about every week here, and we'll actually have an installment of Potato News, if I can get through it on today's episode. But first of all, look at this. What do you think might be in here?
I'm doing the watch party.
Oh, thank you.
I hope to God it's not potato.
Let's see what is in this package that came for me just a day or two ago. I waited to share this with you on the show. My wife has a cold too, by the way. Oh, honey.
Look what Esther sent you. Get well chicken soup.
Oh, thank you, Esther. It's a potato. How did you guess it? Did you realize it would be a potato?
No.
Look at it. He's beautiful. He's got his tag. He's got his little flippy flapper underneath. The hat, a very nicely colored ribbon. This is a beautiful potato. Thank you. Thank you so much. I won't give the address or anything, but thank you to Liv over in California who sent.
He's very cute. He's very photogenic.
But check it out. Brothers! This is the one who gets a little... Yeah. He's sort of the svelte, kind of pretty model one.
Yes.
And this one's a little bit more like... It even has like nose goblins like I've got at the moment. Let's see if I can get that thing off. This is one who sort of needs Weight Watchers and probably some other kinds of therapies as well. But he's got a beautiful blue... Look at the blue ribbon on this one. Actually, I'm showing it to my wife. I should show her on the camera like this. Look at... I just want to get that off your nose. Ah, I'm so pretty. Ow! There we go. You know, you can pick your nose, you can pick your friends, but don't pick your friend's nose.
That's good.
Yeah, this is gonna be a hell of a showing. Like, look at the size of his foot. Look at these things. He's massive. This was a beautiful. This is like a Monday potato. This is when they were really stuffing them and making them big and beautiful and soft, like to sleep with, except for the hat that will poke your eye out. But this him, and this is more. This one is made with more finesse. This is more like a Wednesday potato. But oh, how beautiful. Okay, but that is not the potato story I wanted to share with you. Okay, even though I'm thrilled to have these new additions to the Daverhood in terms of potato dumb. I have here. I better not show the address either. Another box. Ladies and gentlemen, paper. And if you can believe it, what a banner week this has been. Yes, 3 potatoes in 1 week. Hon, are you failing, or are you just
Suicidal.
jumping up and down? Joyce says she's suicidal. She's jumping up and down in her heart for the addition of these brand new adorable potatoes. Now this is very important because here's a story that I'll tell. We had, pardon me, our Halloween, my God, our holiday, I don't want to say Christmas because I'm Jewish, but our holiday office party for where I work a week ago at a local Japanese hibachi place in Long Island where we are. And hibachi places are kind of cool. You know, it's kind of neat that they're fun. You get to watch somebody cook at your table, which I usually don't really want to do. I'm like, I'm here. I just want to wait, dawdle, talk to somebody, and then bring out my food, right? If I wanted to see food prepared, I go in the kitchen and schlep and start making it myself, right? But every once in a while, it's nice to go to a hibachi place and you know, see how they do it. And we had our guy was not what I would call the very best or most agile of these Benihana type chefs, because some of those guys, they're flying off the handles. They're doing comedy. They're juggling. They're doing pyrotechnics and fire. They're Cirque du Soleil in front of a steam table. This guy, he could barely hold on to these wooden maracas that he's holding. Just hitting them. He's like, oh, I'm. It was like all he could do to just kind of be there and make food.
He was phoning it in.
Yeah, he really was. He was absolutely phoning it in Japanese, except he was Spanish. I'm pretty sure. Not a bad guy, but you could kind of tell he needs the job. He's not doing this for love. He hasn't studied for 18 years with a rakugo, chef somewhere in Osaka. He's just like, all right, bam, bam, bam. Oh, yeah, you're all watching me. I'm making food. Oh, let me flip. Yeah. What do you do? Yeah. And also, he's not getting tipped because it was a party. So but the tip is already worked in. So it's not like he's going to get extra for being really convivial and doing sort of Michael Davis juggling all over the place. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, we're here. I'm going to make your food.
David, welcome Warhol and Jimmy.
I did. Warhol, welcome Miles, Reggie, Jimmy, and Yvette, and Gloria, and all the folks who are tuning in.
Vincent and Ralph.
Vincent and Ralph as well. Again, apologies if I keep doing this to my nose. I'm trying to get through this show before all this Fleming mucus gets through me. So, we have this party, and the one thing I don't like about places like this is it's the Japanese equivalent of a Dave and Buster's. Everybody just somehow feels Like they can be as
it's so
loud
yeah.
and because
Crazy.
excuse me, because it's a party place. So you're not there to have gentle, romantic conversations with a partner. You're there to drink a bit and but it's not my kind of place. Where was I going with this, hon? Why was I bringing? Oh! I know. Yes, because while I was there at this office party with about 20-something of my colleagues, I rarely go anywhere out to eat or anywhere at all without my friend.
David here.
Thank you, babe. Joyce is bringing me little sucking candies. Actually, they don't suck. They taste pretty good, but
Some are menthol, some are not.
yeah. So I bring a potato out just to because potato, unfortunately, there's not a lot he likes to eat at a Japanese restaurant. He loves ketchup and he loves butter. You're not going to find butter. It's interesting. That seems to be the secret ingredient when they're doing this. I keep using the word hibachi. There's another word for it. When they do this cooking, they put out vegetables,
And they butter.
they chop it up, and then just put a pat of butter and a little bit of seasoning, and that's all it is. It's just that everything tastes really, really great when you put it on a grill, and they have this very flat.
And you like those Japanese mushrooms.
Those were good. You like the mushrooms, yeah. But some of the mung beans I could have lived without. But everything else was really, really good. Why? Because it's on a grill.
And
They put butter on the
They
thing.
got me brown rice. That was nice.
Yeah, they got you brown
And
rice.
they accommodated your friend who was gluten free.
Oh, did they really? Well, how many Japanese things have gluten in them to begin with?
Soy sauce and stuff.
Yeah.
I can't soy sauce. So what they did was they went in the kitchen and they got her whole plate, because if I didn't like the fact that my vegetarian stuff was cooked on the grill with meat, they would have brought a plate from the kitchen.
That's
She
right.
got a beautiful plate. It was gorgeous.
So that's. I mean, precautions were taken to make people happy in terms of what they wanted.
Like food, a dietary restriction.
Because this one I can tell you something about working for, not the government, but .gov, but working for the state, as it were, working for a public place. We were not sponging off the taxpayer. We had to pay for our own Christmas party, or our own holiday party. It was just like, you want to be part of this? Because I've worked in places, the holiday party, you just show up, right? And the food is there. Maybe it's just pizza. But, you're not paying to be there.
You're right.
With ours, it's like, no, taxpayers are paying for this. You want to come to this party, you got to shell out $30, $40. So we were all kind of like, okay, let's have some of this food. And we want to, keep the food coming. I think I talked about this part last week of when it first starts and you're hungry, you've been working all day, it's like 7 o'clock at night now. And then the guy gets up on the grill and he chops like one little cucumber. I know,
you're like, oh God.
And there's 8 people around this table and everybody gets like one cube of cucumber. What?
Tomato.
Okay, tomato. Start with tomato. So everybody, he takes one friggin' tomato, slices it into like 6 portions, and you're thinking, okay, it's I get more than this on a burger. This is going to be a meal. It's going to be like 1 piece of cucumber, 1 piece of tomato, 1/2 a slice of mushroom, a couple of mung beans. But then actually, they and I mentioned this last week. They portion it out, and as the meal goes on, there's more food. And then it's like, here's the chicken, here's the steak, here's the tofu for people who are having that. So ultimately, we didn't go hungry, although it would have been nice if there had been any kind of coffee and dessert, considering what we paid to get in there. It would have been a little bit nice if they could have just, but they hustled us out because it was like a Friday night. And, you're here, 8:30, go. Which is a really racist way of putting it because they didn't talk like that because they're all Spanish.
It was the librarian who said that.
Yeah, but literally, and which is kind of good because we all respect each other as colleagues and stuff, but we don't really like each other that much. We're not people who necessarily hang out with each other outside office hours. So we don't necessarily want to be all together for hour after hour.
It's delimited,
Yeah. So if you have a 3-hour window where there's alcoholic beverages for people who want to buy those, and then there's food, and then you're out of here. No lingering for an hour, say, what are you doing for the holidays? Did you do this at work today? It's like, no.
Well, there was also assigned seating.
It was assigned seating too, which
I've
was...
never seen that at a party.
Yeah. But, So we're out of there. But in between, I mentioned that I brought out my friend Potato, as I tend to bring him to places when Joyce and I eat out. It's only fair, even though there's not much for Potato to eat. Well, there's a colleague that I work with, and I barely even work with her. I barely even know her. And she doesn't seem particularly friendly. Not a nasty woman, but just doesn't seem like, your most, I used the word convivial before, but you know what I'm talking about. Someone who's just been working in this place for long enough that they get through their day, they're dealing with the public, they really don't want to deal with the public, they're kind of crabby and so forth. I mean, which I would, if I had to deal with the public more than 20 minutes at a time, I would be going postal. That's just my personality. But, so I'm thinking, okay, fine. I guess she was there at the party. And she goes to me 2 days ago when we're back at work. And she says, David. I'm like, what? Because I never, no, not that I wouldn't, but I never talk to this one. We don't really have a lot of interaction. And she says, you're the potato guy. Which, I don't even know, I don't know if those are fighting words or if she's trying to convey something really profound. I mean, or a compliment in that. I'm like, well, yeah, I am the potato guy. And she says, I want you to know that many years ago, several years ago, and I don't remember if it's her son or her son-in-law, was at Trader Joe's, the supermarket food place that they have.
Yeah, it's a national chain.
And he was passing by, all the food that they have in bins and things, if you've been where they have the produce. And he noticed in one particular
Do you
bin,
have it?
I do. In one particular bin of potatoes, that the potatoes all looked like they had faces, human faces, not just the potato eyes, but not these kinds of eyes or even these kinds of eyes, but actual. Oh, here comes my second sneeze. Like actual, face, person type faces on these potatoes, and I'm like, okay. Pardon me. Oh. Fantastic. And she said he took a picture of it because he was so fascinated by this. And I'm like, okay. And we're talking about Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer here. And she's like, no. It was so weird to see all these potatoes that had facial features like this just randomly in this Trader Joe's bin. And he took a picture of it and saved it. And I've had this photograph hanging in my kitchen for many years now. And again, think of just how potatoes can bring the world together. This woman that I vaguely know, I didn't even really know her name, barely talked to her, had no, because we don't really work together generally except one night a week. And yet here she is, brought together by nothing more or less than a potato, or the idea of a potato. And suddenly it's not only opened this avenue of communication between us, but this idea that she has had a photograph of potatoes hanging in her kitchen for years. And then this is the beautiful part, the part that actually almost made me cry. She said, I have several copies of this picture. I made them. One of them had a frame. It doesn't have a frame anymore. But I can bring you a copy of this photograph. And I said, you can. And she said, oh, yes, I can. Because I thought she would just take a picture, show me on her cell phone. But she said, no. We made several copies of this photo. I would like to give you one. But then she made me promise, I'm not sure how I can keep this promise. She made me promise that if I have this photograph, I have to display it in the potato room. Now, unfortunately, this is the part that I can't really do, because when Joyce and I were living here years ago, we were living in our own house, about a half a mile away from where we're staying now. And I turned the den, lunatic that I am, into a potato room. There was just potato. I had only about 150 back then, but all the shelves were stacked with these potatoes. They were hanging from the ceilings. It was a beautiful, profoundly moving thing. And then we moved. So they all got in storage. And then for the past couple of years, of course, I've been teaching at a university, and I had my own office. And they let me do as I wilt with my office. And suddenly, if you've watched this show, when we first started doing it on Facebook a year and a half, 2 years ago, you'll see I turned that office into a potato room. And there was nothing more beautiful.
David, can I interrupt? Do we have any manila folders that are blank, unused?
Blank manila folders. If we do, they're up there. What was I saying?
Your potato room at work.
Yeah. So there was nothing more exciting to me than when I would have students come in for office hours or come in to ask me questions and stuff, and not expecting, they figure they'd just be walking into some professor's office, right? And instead they walk in, and there's, at this point, about 250 potatoes everywhere. And I always wait for the reaction. The beautiful reaction of either of their saying, okay, what's with all the potatoes? And my immediately responding, what potatoes? Which was a real mind screw if you think about it. Or just watching the sheer horror / delight on their faces of realizing just how eccentric the people who are teaching them in this university can tend to be. It's a beautiful thing. But my problem now is I no longer have that office. I'm not teaching in Colorado anymore, and I no longer have the den in the house where we were living here on Long Island. So I don't have a potato room. I've got about 400 potatoes. I don't know what how to display them. So we're going to jerry-rig something this weekend, if I feel better, in order to properly display this photograph that this woman, I won't use her name to protect the innocents, but we'll call her G. Here it is. And she says she's really not sure which is right side up or upside down. Look at it, folks. It's actually very creepy. If you were to put this on your kitchen wall, as she did, I'm trying to get this more close to the. But look at the potatoes in this photograph. First of all, you must tell me that that's a face, right? You see that it's kind of a zombie face, but you see that one. Here's another one. It's got the two eyes. It's got a little mouth there. This one, if you turn this way, you can sort of see he's got some special ed issues. This fella. Who else? He's the amazing one. That one. There's a couple of. Let me look at it myself for a moment. But wow, it's just.
It looks more like the moon.
Joyce says this section reminds her a little bit more of the surface of the moon.
Oh, welcome, Tim, Bill, Timothy, Andy, Alan.
Tim, Bill, Timothy, Alan, and Andy, Alan.
Tudding.
Tug?
Tadhg.
Tadhg, okay.
And then
Tug.
Jonathan,
well, welcome to all the folks who are watching and listening. It is, Cynthia says these are creepy alien heads.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Oh, look how. So there. Much as I love potatoes, I would not be hanging this in my kitchen just because that I wouldn't want to stare at that in the morning. I don't want to see that over my morning coffee. There's something wrong. And it's got the gash in the head like it was just in a horrible car accident. And look at this one. Look at this fellow. Let me put him a little closer. Well, I don't know. I don't know if there's really a face there. Let me turn him around. Yeah. Well, either way, thank you, G. I don't know what it is, but thank you, G, for sharing this rather otherworldly, weird. I'm not the only one who's sick. This is my wife. Poor thing. And I just burped. Oh my God. Gonna try and get through this show. I'm really trying. But what a lovely thing. And I thank her, G, so much for sharing this and doing this and thinking of me. I mean, this is, again, a person that I barely know, even though we work in the same place.
I knew that would make you happy.
It was gone above and beyond on the assumption that I'm a crazy potato person. This is not somebody who's like, oh, I went to Oh, I made cookies last night.
She thinks that. I think she thinks that you're one of the few people that would appreciate it. It's like very.
Well, yeah, which let's face it, I would be. But, it's not like, oh, I make extra cookies, or do you want to take some cookies home? Or, it's not like, that book you said you wanted to read, it came up before it goes on reserves. We'll get it for you. No. This is someone who had to go home, look for copies of this photograph, bring it in a protected cardboard cover.
That's so cool.
And make me swear upon the life of my parents and my ancestors that I would, no, not really, and that I would display it in my potato room. Thank you, Chi. Cynthia is saying, Joyce, go to bed. I'm like, yeah, Cynthia, but after the show. And welcome, by the way, to Chris and Jonathan. Oh, gosh, I keep seeing you at the theater, but we don't get to say hi. And Jay and Andy and JL. So
a lot of people in the watch party.
That's wonderful. Welcome to all of you. And let me explain again. This is a little unusual Dave's Gone By because I'm trying to get through it and power through it, doing all our usual stuff while I can barely think and talk because I've got the head cold from hell that you can hear my wife has too. So it's been a marvelous week in the Daverhood, ladies and gentlemen. So, good Lord, your cough is worse than mine. What happened? Listen to that.
I think you reinfected me.
I don't think that's possible. I don't think people can reinfect. You're sick, and then you either get well or you get, I don't think you reinfect yourself.
So my meeting's at 10:45. I'm going to ask Mom to drop me at the post office.
Oh, 10:45?
Yeah, Mom can drop me.
Okay, cool. So good. So hang with me. Maybe we can do Greeley Crimes and Old Times because we are so backed up with that.
But I need to stop at the post office.
Okay, yeah, we can do that. So here's the deal. Although we don't have an interview to do today, Rabbi Saul Solomon is taking the week off. We will have potato news. We will have our today, yesterday quiz. We will have our Colorado Limerick of the Damned. And we'll go inside Broadway for news and reviews of the Rialto. But also, most belovedly, Greeley Crimes and Old Times, which is wow, we've been doing this for a few years now. It's a segment that has to do with two columns that appear in the Greeley Tribune, the local newspaper from when we were back in Colorado. What are we doing? No, not doing that. What happened here? Sorry about that. There we go. One of the columns has to do with things that were in the newspaper in Greeley and Weld County 100 years ago. And the other column is more recent stuff, cop log, which are phone calls that came into the Greeley and Weld County Police Dispatch, but not the really serious criminal, sad activity ones. These are more weird. These are like somebody notices something odd, calls it into the local police, and those are apparently public record, culled and collated by Mike Peters and Joe Moylan, actually, of the Greeley Tribune. And I'm trying not to be rude by closing my eyes while I do this. But this is probably a day when I should have just done radio and no video, or worn dark glasses or something. But it's kind of interesting it feels more radio-like when I do this with eyes closed. I don't know if it feels like that more for you too, but I can it gives me a little bit more of an imagination, perhaps. Well, I'm not just sort of looking half at myself, half at the camera thing, half at the people who are tuning in. And by the way, welcome to Chris and Kim and Jay and so many of the other people that are listening in the watch parties. But yeah, let me try this. Well, I can't really do Greeley Crimes and Old Times with my eyes closed unless I did Braille. But let's at least hear the theme music, courtesy of Tom Waits. Ba-da-da-da, fla-da-da-doo, bringing the out indeed we. So Greeley Crimes and Old Times has to do, as I said, with activities in Greeley, both back in 1919, as well as a week or two or three ago, in terms of what's been happening on the police blogger in town. So let's get right to it. Joyce hopefully will join us for part of it. Let's, still thumbing through. Where is it? Here we go. Let's begin with a crime, shall we? We shall. Oh, good, perfect timing. Time for Greeley Crime Shell Times, baby. Police responded to a gas station on 22nd Street for a man swinging jumper cables above his head and yelling at passersby.
I like it.
The man told officers he was just trying to get someone's attention to help him jump his car.
Good.
I don't know. I think that would be fun to walk down the street swinging jumper cables over your head, going wee.
Be dangerous
Why would it be dangerous?
because you could hit somebody or yourself.
Oh, maybe. Anyway, police responded to 9th Avenue to speak with a man who claimed there was a stranger in the trunk of his car. I shall repeat that. In the trunk
Yes.
of his car. The caller told dispatch his car was parked on the side of the street, and when he approached it, a twitchy white man was going through his trunk. The man then climbed into the trunk and closed the lid.
Good.
The caller wanted help from police getting the man out of his car.
That's smart.
Is there a way, like if you're kidnapped and stuff, is there a latch
Yes.
inside the thing that you can climb out and roll on the highway or
I
something?
believe so.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm trying to be funny with these, but my brain isn't cooperating at the moment. Let's try an old time, shall we? We shall. The annual, well, this goes back to Thanksgiving. The annual Lincoln Park Turkey Trot
Oh, wow.
was last night, and dozens of people attended. The 100 turkeys were released from the bandstand, and the crowd swarmed after them. Whoever caught a turkey got to keep it for Thanksgiving dinner. People came armed with ropes, fishing poles, nets, and baseball bats.
Oh, Jesus Christ. So you could cough drop.
And those who caught, I don't know if I can speak well.
Yeah, you can. Just put it in this side of it.
Those who caught turkeys also received 2 quarts of canned cranberry sauce. Remember the great WKRP episode where they dropped the turkeys out of a helicopter or out of a plane, and they didn't realize that turkeys couldn't fly? Yeah. But anyway, I just have this image of 1919 Greeley, Colorado, people like running madly after turkeys,
Clubbing to death.
club with baseball bats. Wow.
That's
What a
good.
town. What a town.
Nothing says give thanks more than that.
That's really the way we dealt with the Native Americans anyway, so might as well. The Dear Wester family, you know them, of Alt, they returned to Alt after living a short time in Loveland. They are barbers and will reopen their business. Mr. Dear Wester does not require an assistant because his wife is just as good trimming rebellious locks and quelling the stubby whiskers.
Wow.
Wasn't my nickname in high school Stubby Whiskers?
It was rebellious locks.
All right, let's get to something more. Oh my God, I'm just going nowhere with these today. Here we go. Police responded to 61st Avenue Court to speak with parents who reported someone put a piece of paper in their son's trick-or-treat bag saying to go to the new Fortnite video game website, which ended up redirecting to a porn site. The note said, quote, "The look on your parents' face would be priceless."
That's awesome.
That's kind of, yeah. That's obviously not, that's one of the new time things. That wasn't from 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Because the porn websites back then were very tame.
Yes, they were. They were flashcards.
Wow. They would have porn kaleidoscopes and the Edward Muybridge thing of like naked people just going around and around in a circle. Police, which they kind of do in modern porn anyway. Police responded to 21st Avenue for an unknown carcass found in a field. Yeah.
God.
The caller said she found a carcass, quote, of good size, but didn't know what it was. The caller dragged the carcass out of the field herself so it'd be easier for authorities to locate it. They don't say what kind of animal or if it's an animal. Anyway, maybe it was, you know where it could have been, from Venezuela. the capital. You ever heard of Caracas, Venezuela?
Whatever.
A little bit of comedy magic here on Dave's Gone By. Oh. At Prairie View Schools, the coyote hunt is still on.
Oh, good.
They're trying to find these drug, no, just kidding. The day after Thanksgiving, school officials hope enough hunters pay the fee so they can afford to dig a water well for their schools. Children deserve a drink of water.
Amen.
Do they? Do they?
Yes, they do.
I don't know. Kids back then were hardier. They could go without a
Otherwise, they
beverage.
climb in people's trunks.
Now, on the hill in Greeley at 11th Avenue, 5 or 6 boys were chased away by night officers. The boys were breaking open door screens and raiding the refrigerators on the porches. They escaped in a Ford Auto, traveling as high as 30 miles per hour.
Crazy. That's scandalous.
That's a high-speed chase back then, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, a little more crime of Greeley crimes at all times, ladies and gentlemen, here on Dave's Gone By. Police responded to a Greeley home for a man shooting at the caller's garage with a bow and arrow.
Wow.
Guess we're going to call him Robin Hoodlum.
I think I hear Mom.
That's what I mean. If somebody's shooting at a garage with a bow and arrow, it's a pretty big target. So, I can understand if they drew a target on it, but it's like, can you hit the garage door? Yeah, even I could hit a garage door with a bow and arrow.
It's hard.
Did you ever take archery in high school?
I took it with Tony and Felicia.
Oh, God, I had no luck with that. It was one of our horrible electives that we were doing when we weren't playing softball in high school. You know, when we had to do gym, and you just stand there and your fingers are all getting like, you're pinched and gnarled by, hated archery. Stupid. I mean, if I were going to go bow hunting, killing things, okay, sure. Or even do, go bow hunting for students I hated in the school and kill them that way. But I mean, what a pointless endeavor. Once you own a gun, even a BB gun, something.
Archery is a skill.
Well, sure. Well, it is. You wouldn't figure. It's like, what's the big deal? You just go, but forget it. That thing would land like 4 feet in front of me. I'm like, okay. And it's a sexual metaphor anyway. Here we go. Police were called to 21st Avenue for someone's nephew who was being a jerk. The caller told dispatchers the nephew was treating his sister like crap and being demanding.
Wow.
It was, quote, just chaos.
Whoa.
He also wanted oatmeal.
Why?
As a kid, he wants oatmeal.
Okay.
And demanded his mom go to the store to get some. Police chose not to respond because officers don't discipline other people's children. I don't know. I mean, would you, if you were a cop, or if you were a mom, would you call the cops if your child was demanding oatmeal?
No.
What about oatmeal raisin?
Yeah, the raisins.
If the raisins would do it, then I would, yeah. Oh my God. I can't even be funny today. This is horrible. Police.
Take your xylophone, that'll help.
Yeah. Let's see. Police responded to 22nd Avenue Court for a woman who spent the night at a man's house and refused to leave the next morning. The man told Weld County dispatchers he was afraid of the woman, who he thought was possibly high on methamphetamines.
Wow.
It's like, you get the feeling that they had an interesting night together. Yeah, they met at a bar, they met at the hotel. You think either of them was particularly choosy about a partner?
I think they had beer goggles, but I think you have to be careful who you bring home.
Are there meth goggles?
Probably.
It's like if you're so strung out on meth, anybody looks good to you?
Probably. I would assume. I'm going to get going, sweetie.
Okay. Well, you know what? I'm like two minutes from finishing this up, and then I'll because I also, if you can help me potatoize myself. What your thing is at 10:45?
Yeah, but Mom's thinking I'm coming down now.
Oh, okay. Let me do one more. Police responded to Harp Court
Oh, nice.
Harp Court for a woman who injured her arm after walking into a basketball hoop.
She's tall.
So after walking into a basketball hoop, she demanded police remove the basketball hoop, saying, "The sidewalk is for walking on, not for these hoops.
That's true.
Get these crazy hoop kids off my lawn." How tall did this woman have to
She
be
was a giant.
to hurt her arm on a basketball hoop? I don't know. Well, I do know that she should have gotten some advice before she started doing this. You know where you would find advice by a basketball hoop? Well, first of all, you go on the net. Yeah, it took balls to make that joke. I hope she doesn't have to take them to court. Tee-hee. This is the comedy, folks. This is the comedy portion of our broadcast, ladies and
Let me put on
gentlemen.
your outfit here.
Okay, so that was Greeley Crimes and Old Times. But we have other kinds of news. Since this is such an important potato-y day, we have potato news coming up in just a moment.
Mr. Horace Greeley was no fool. I'm sure that you'll agree with me that Greeley was no fool.
What he is getting at is that Mr. Greeley was no fool.
Yippee-yi, 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 yi-yi, yippee-yi, yippee-yi, yippee-yi.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, oh, stop playing that. Oh, well, actually, that would be the song to play, but we don't have the rights to it. We do have the rights to this one, which has to do with potatoes.
This is the potato song, man. The most beautiful song in the entire world. Potatoes are so beautiful to me. I love potatoes. I can put ketchup on them, eat them at McDonald's. I love potatoes. They're normally brown outside. Potatoes are really good. I feed them to my children like I should because they like them a little bit too, even though I force feed them. I love potatoes.
Good morning. This is Spudward R. Murrow with the Potato News for today, December 14th, 2019. Now, we apologize if the following story might strike some listeners as upsetting. Bloomberg News reports that potato processors announced cold weather has damaged the potato crop in parts of North America, while Idaho and Alberta were spared. Farmers in Manitoba, North Dakota, and Minnesota had a rough harvest.
My potato.
Bye. An estimated 12,000 acres of potato farmland in Manitoba, that's 18%. Oh, I can't read this custom thing. Here we go. Of the planted area is unharvested, and a further 6.5% of Alberta potatoes are frost damaged. Ooh, burr! Why am I doing this? The USDA forecasts U.S. potato output will drop 6.1% this year, with a 5.5% drop in Idaho. Harvests will be the smallest since 2010. It will be rough for French fry makers, as the same large spuds that make for ideal fries are the ones most impacted. Well, at least as we say, there is a silver lining. Moving on to the best headline ever: how Peru's potato museum could stave off a world food crisis. Check this out. Here we go, folks. With a climate changing faster than most crops can adapt, scientists have found hope in a living museum dedicated to a staple eaten by millions daily. And you really shouldn't eat staples because they're metal and they'll stick you going down. The humble potato, high in the Peruvian Andes. My name isn't Andy. No, up in the Andes, agronomists are looking to identify genetic strains Oh, ow, I have a bit of a strain. It hurts. Which could help the tubers survive intense droughts, floods, and frosts. The Potato Park in Cusco is 35 square miles wide, 16,000 feet above sea level. It has, quote, maintained one of the highest diversities of native potatoes in the world and is in a constant process of evolution, says Alejandro Argumendo, founder of an association that supports the park. He says, by sowing potatoes at different altitudes and in different combinations, these potatoes create new genetic expressions that can respond to the challenges of climate change. This living laboratory of potato diversity has over 1,300 varieties. The potato was domesticated 7,000 years ago by the ancestors of these Peruvian peasant farmers. It happened on the shores of Lake Titicaca. Oh, just stop sniggering, those of you at home, between modern-day Peru and Bolivia. The Quechua-speaking descendants of the Incas have myriad descriptive names for potatoes. Examples include a squat, grayish tuber named after an alpaca's nose, to a yellow tati called hold this further away, called Purna Maki, or Puma Maki, or Puma's paw. There is even a maddeningly knobby potato known as Pusi Quachun Wachachi. I will repeat that one. Pusi Quachun Wachachi. And Joni loves, well, this is Joni's pussy loves Wachachi, which literally means make your daughter-in-law cry because it's so hard to peel. Tee-hee, tee-hee. They come in every color and texture of reds, yellows, blues, and purples, white or shocking pink. Some are powdery in texture, others are waxy. Some are too bitter until they're soaked, freeze-dried on rooftops, and trampled on to remove their skins. Is the United Nations looking into this torture? I wonder, potato. I wonder. The Potato Park is considered a secondary center of origin for the potato, which today is grown on every continent on Earth except Antarctica. Scientists at NASA have even been testing whether potatoes can be grown on Mars. Woo! And just for fun, some little-known ketchup facts, courtesy of Delish.com, right here on Potato News. Heinz's first big seller was, not ketchup, pure evaporated horseradish. Who knew? Well, I knew because I wrote this. The term quality control was actually coined by a Heinz employee in 1912. It was Heinz, of course, that supported the Pure Food and Drug Act of 1906. Almost done, folks, almost done. Oh, God. In 1999, NASA approved Heinz tomato ketchup for use on board the International Space Station. And although 57 varieties was actually made up by H.J. Heinz, he came up with it because he saw a billboard advertising 57 varieties of shoes, and he just liked the sound of that. Heinz does have more than 5,700 products now around the world. Well, today's potato drawing numbers are 31, 11, fentanyl, skydiving, yellow, 162, 11, and danceteria. This has been Spudward Armuro with the Potato News. Good night and good growth. You say potato, I say potato. Let's call the whole thing Potato News. Well, hey everybody. Dave Lefkowitz here, continuing the Dave's Gone By Facebookio Podcastio Programmio of the stream. I want to remind you that most weeks, I'm not sick as a dog. Most weeks I have my wits about me, or sometimes I keep my wits about you if I don't have room to keep my wits about me. But, apologies for my disintegration today. I've been dealing with this terrible head cold that came on yesterday. And I was debating, do I do the show? Do I not do the show? But I wanted to get through some of the Greeley crimes of all times. I've got stuff to talk about in the theater and inside Broadway. I would hate to have Cynthia and Jeff go a week without our Yesterday quiz. So yeah, I figured, let me see if I can get through it and also see if I can manage it. Kind of do this Everest of a thing. I don't know if I'll be here all 3 hours, but push this pebble up a hill for at least 2 hours. Even though my throat is shot, I can barely keep my eyes open. We're calling the episode "Mucus to My Ears." Get it? Mucus to my ears, because there's mucus everywhere. I did take. Here's the deal. I went to the pharmacy yesterday when I was coming home from work. I asked the guy, very helpful, very nice pharmacist, and he recommended. I'm not doing a commercial or anything. I just wanted to. I don't know what I'm even going to say about this, but I normally don't like to take any kinds of drugs unless I have to, but I was really not in a good frame of mind. I was not in good physical shape. And I said, okay, so just, the one question, it really is the one question that mankind has been asking century after century after century. We haven't really necessarily completely answered it yet. And it's just like, I have a cold. I don't have flu. I don't have leprosy, as far as I know. I don't have mononucleosis. I got a bad cold, and it's making me cough. It's giving me a little bit of a fever on and off. It's in my eyes and my nose and my head. It's stuffy and runny. What do I take? What is the best way, without going to a doctor, without spending $250 to walk into a doctor's office to just have him say, oh, well, get this over the counter, take Tylenol or something. Well, so the druggist, the chemist yesterday, he said, you know what, go for the Dayquil. Just either Dayquil or NyQuil at night if you want a little something to keep you drowsy, which I don't. If I'm meant to sleep, I'll sleep. I don't want to suddenly start having narcotic things kicking in. But the Dayquil kind of worked for a bit yesterday. But I'm such a wuss. And I just, a couple of days ago, went to see Jagged Little Pill on Broadway, all about a woman who gets hooked on opioids. So the last thing I'm going to want to do is wander into a drugstore for over-the-counter medication and get anything that kind of affects me mentally or puts me down for the count or puts me to sleep or anything like that. So, but I did try the Dayquil. It did relieve, seriously, some of the symptoms, even though I didn't want to take the recommended dosage of 2. I said, well, I've never tried this before. I don't know if it's going to suddenly, because it's an antihistamine, it's going to give my heart palpitations, or going to make me go thumpy, thumpy, thumpy. Let me take 1, which is probably not as the box recommends, but it did some of what I wanted it to do. And then today, my wife just said, no, just go with Tylenol. Tylenol will get you through the show. It'll knock any fever that you want out of you. Although I guess fever can be a good thing, because fever is burning off the stuff that you want burned out of you and all those toxins and stuff. Again, there's still that nobody really knows. Nobody can cure the common cold. They can just give you something that will either knock you out or alleviate some of the symptoms. But if some of your symptoms in life are boredom or just not knowing what to do with yourself, if you're at work or something, why not watch and listen to older episodes of Dave's Gone By, better ones, where we do all our usual stuff. We also have hundreds and hundreds of interviews on file, and you can find them all at our website, davesgoneby.com, D-A-V as in Victor, ESGONEBY.com, davesgoneby.com. So we have the first episode we ever did going back to October of 2002. It was a late night show, 11 o'clock, 1 hour. It was kind of great. You can hear it. You can also hear our 10th episode. You can hear our 383rd episode and our 627th episode. They're all there. And it's free. You can stream them. You can download them as a podcast. You can, if you don't want to listen to a whole 3-hour show, let's say, beginning to end. You can also scroll through to what you really want to listen to, and it's all there. These thousands of hours of Dave's Gone By archives at davesgoneby.com. So please do check that out. Also, we've been loading up, pardon me. We've been loading up our archives on this wonderful site called archive.org. We've only got like the last half year up there, but it's a, pardon me, oh, sorry. Excuse me. We've, because this is a great website, you know, I work, excuse me, in a place that allows me to, hey, can you actually see, because I can't necessarily get the handkerchief to my nose fast enough, do you actually see the stuff flying out of my nose onto the computer and into the air? Kind of curious about that. Maybe if you put it in slow motion. But what the hell was I saying? Yeah, at archive.org, one of the great things is that I'm generally allowed in my day job to just kind of tune in, turn on, plug out, as it were. Just put headphones in, listen to Spotify, and also I've been listening to a lot of old-time radio, as I've been mentioning, Gene Shepard, Henry Morgan, old episodes of the English radio comedy series, I'm Sorry, I'll Read That Again, where the guys who went on to do The Goodies, and John Cleese was in a couple of seasons too. So, you know, it really makes the day go by like that, because a lot of stuff I would be listening to anyway, even if I was home working on my own stuff or just killing time. So that's been great. And one of the sites that I tend to tune into most is archive.org, where you can find millions, really, of hours. I mean, I know YouTube does this too, but this is really, it's a nonprofit organization that's devoted to capturing and preserving radio and TV, and to some extent film, from a historical and nostalgic perspective. It's pretty neat, and you're going to want to check it out. And of course, it functions as a place where you can listen on the computer and also download both audio and video. If you just want audio of recent Dave's Gone By shows, you can also find those at castbox.fm. Castbox.fm. That is purely a podcasting site. So if you have difficulty downloading a Dave's Gone By episode from my website as something you can listen to in the gym or in the car, you know, when you're away and you can't get to a whole website, you just want a podcast, best place to do that is if you just want the audio at castbox.fm. And what else do I need to tell you? I just need to tell you that you can email me, davesgoneby@aol.com. I do love to hear from you. davesgoneby@aol.com, or message me right here on Facebook, either during the show or later on during the week. And I've got a Twitter feed, Radio Dave 2. Radio Dave, the number 2. I will tell you, it's 4 minutes after 10 Eastern Time here in the Daverhood. For those of you who are just tuning in, like Jeffrey and Jay and Pam and Gina, it's a rather unusual episode. I'm kind of in my PJs. I'm in my color-coordinated handkerchief because I'm dealing with the cold from hell here on Dave's Gone By. So trying to get through, trying to see how I manage an episode of the show where I can barely put 2 words together. I can put 2 words together, but I can't put 2 jokes together, which is the tragedy. But still trying to do all the stuff that we do on a typical Dave's Gone By. So we have our Colorado Limerick of the Damned coming up in a while. We'll also have our Today, Yesterday quiz. And what else? What else do we have? I think those are about to, it should about do it, shouldn't it? Yeah, especially since right now we're going to get cultural, because I've been a theater critic and a playwright and an actor and a director and a theater journalist for many, many years at this point. So I love talking about the theater and sharing shows that I've gone to see or sharing news of the Rialto with you. And I do this every week in a segment that we call Inside Broadway. Inside Broadway, a look at theater on and off Broadway and beyond. Brought to you by Total Theater and Performing Arts Insider. Curtain going up. Yes, inside Broadway we go. Every Saturday here on Dave's Gone By. So you'll forgive me if I don't have quite the exuberance and enthusiasm like I usually do when talking about all things theatrical here in the Daverhood. But I do want to feel enthusiastic and excited about these things because I love the theater and I love sharing that with you. For example, I want to let you know actually some bad, sad news and unexpected news about a Broadway show that I kind of liked. The critics sort of gave Beetlejuice short shift and were saying, well, it's kind of clever at points and it's really well designed, but not a particularly great musical, blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. But audiences were having their say. And Beetlejuice was becoming a kind of a hit. I mean, it's far away from making back its investment still. But in recent weeks, it's been clearing the $1 million a week hurdle easily and doing quite well. This new musical with a book by Scott Brown and Anthony King, adapting, the story from the film, of course, God, you realize Beetlejuice goes back to 1988, the Tim Burton film? Anyway, Eddie Perfect did the score, and it was certainly an improvement over his score for King Kong last year. Alex Timber's directing. So here's the deal, everybody expected it to bring in some crowds and some tourist crowds, but because the reviews weren't really there for it, and nobody in the show is really famous beyond Broadway, people weren't expecting it to be a hit. But wouldn't you know, people are enjoying it. People have, the Beetlejuice is a brand, and there's nothing that Broadway loves more right now than a brand. It was doing really well at the box office, and yet they announced this week, they're still going to close it because they want that theater. That theater is the Winter Garden Theater, and they know that people are going to flock there to see the revival of The Music Man, which is going to be starting in this spring. So this is what happens. There's a traffic jam on Broadway sometimes. So you have a show that's not failing. You have a show that's actually doing surprisingly well and making money over the course of a week, even though it'll be a long time, as I said before, it could recoup. But even a show like that is getting kicked out because the theater owners and producers feel that they could make more money with a Hugh Jackman and Sutton Foster Music Man, which very certainly perhaps they can. But there's been a groundswell of support for Beetlejuice, for fans of the show, to find another place for it, either another Broadway theater that might be opened. I've been thinking, it should just go to the Foreign Legion place that all these musicals go to, off Broadway's New World stages, which is where Jersey Boys went, which is where The Play That Goes Wrong went, which is where Avenue Q went. They'd have to scale Beetlejuice down. I don't think that would be a terrible thing. I think the musical can kind of stand on its own with the cleverness and comedy and not have a $8 million set and prop and projections design, just maybe a $5 million scaled down version. We'll see. But I won't count Beetlejuice out just yet. They just have to find the right place for it. But as of now, it will be closing on June 6th, 2020. It opened back on April 25th of 2019. So, want to let you I want to review this, and I don't know if I'm compos mentis enough to do it justice. So I'm going to kind of glaze over this, and I apologize for it, because I really wanted to talk a bit about this show that I saw earlier this week. Excuse me. Pardon me. Let's do a little freshwater gargling, shall we? We shall. So a couple of nights ago, I went to see the brand new Broadway musical called Jagged Little Pill, which was, I wouldn't say based on, but certainly inspired by and using the very well-known, the huge hit Alanis Morissette CD or record from, about almost 25 years ago now. that she put out that album, which was her. Morissette had already been a child star in Canada, and she was appearing on Nickelodeon, and she put out little teeny bop-ish records, even in her teen. I think her first album came out when she was 11 out in Canada, and they tried to make her sort of a teen idol thing. It didn't really work, didn't really take, but then she went back and knew that she really wanted to be a confessional, personal, intimate, real singer-songwriter, and really pour out what it meant to be a girl in her late teens, early 20s, singing about, mainly one big relationship that went sour. If you believe the record, she'd been dating this guy, and he cheated on her, and he was like significantly older than she was at the time. It was a defining moment in her life, and also a terrible one because he dumped her, and it was she was just all over and a complete wreck. But that inspired her, and her journal entries and her poetry and her writing to put it all on record and to write these songs with Glenn Ballard. He doesn't get any credit at all, and I know it's not. This is not the era to say, hey, she couldn't have done it without Glenn Ballard too, writing some of the music and and arranging things. She certainly could have. She's a songwriter in her own right. But the first two Alanis Morissette albums were really true collaborations between her and this guy Glenn Ballard. But we think of it as basically her. And she vaulted from being, just this scrappy person. She had money because she had been a child star in Canada. But here she was in California. Her tapes and her demos were getting turned down by record companies right and left. But she put out the songs from Jagged Little Pill and finally found one record executive that heard a couple of the songs and went, okay, wow, we have lightning in a bottle here, and we're going to release it, and we're not going to expurgate it to get it on the radio. She's singing what she's singing about. Let's put it out there. And within half a year of the recording of that album, she became a big star, and it sold. It was one of the biggest selling albums of its era. Everybody had a copy of Jagged Little Pill. So now they've turned it into a musical. And before you go, oh, not another jukebox musical, because some of them can be good. Jersey Boys is good. The Tina Turner musical has some good parts in it, especially the concert at the end. What else has been a good? And there have been terrible ones, of all people. There was a really horrible Bob Dylan jukebox musical from years ago. Then there's going to be another Dylan jukebox musical that they did off Broadway at the Public last year. That wasn't bad. Critics liked it a lot better than I did, but it's pretty good. That's coming out. I mean, they did one for the Beach Boys, and they did one for John Lennon, and another for the Beatles. I mean, it's just like, okay, one after another. Do we really need another jukebox musical? But as other critics have said, this is so much more. This Jagged Little Pill, which features a libretto by Diablo Cody, the screenwriter, uses a bunch of the songs from Jagged Little Pill. The musical is like 2 hours and 45 minutes long, so they go deeper into her catalog for some other songs that she released later on. And I think she wrote 2 original new songs for the musical. But there's a real story being told. And it's hard to describe, it's hard to explain this, how, every musical that you go to tries to fit the songs in. I mean, Mamma Mia is very blatant in just kind of shoehorning an ABBA song in wherever it can, without any thought to subtlety, without any thought to, does it really fit here most of the time? And it's very salubrious in the rare instances when it does. In those moments when it's, oh, this song really does fit here. That could have been written for an organic musical instead of just, oh, wow, here's an ABBA hit. We've got to put it in the musical somewhere. How do we do that? Well, we'll have her say a line of dialogue that leads into it, and people want to hear the song anywhere, and they won't really pay attention. This is very different. This is truly a thing where most of these songs could have been written to go with the story that Diablo Cody tells. And it's all about the implosion of a seemingly perfect, happy, upper middle class American, mostly white family. And it starts very tellingly with the Christmas card that mom is writing every year. And I think they even say even only jerks write a Christmas card. Excuse me, pardon me. Only who takes the time to say, well, it's been this kind of year for the so-and-so family, and we went to Europe and we did this, and this was wonderful, and this was great, and that's what their Christmas letter is to start the show. But there are already cracks hinted at below the surface. There are hints that this good-looking, very successful lawyer husband and his wife who's writing the Christmas card are having issues in their marriage. They're not intimate anymore. They're not really communicating with each other, as happens in marriage. Because this is not yet a family that's completely going all horribly to hell. This is a family that has it pretty lucky overall. But at the same time, what makes it so compelling is these are issues that affect your basic normal family. This is not an extraordinary clan. This is not like an August Osage County clan. These are people we really recognize, right, that are starting to deal with issues that are dragging them down. And then you've got the son, the perfect son who wants to be like his perfect mama. His thing is, well, he just got into Harvard. Lucky SOB, they rejected me, but he got into Harvard. Yay for him. Except he doesn't even want to tell his mom and dad that he's not so sure that's what he wants to do. He's one of those kids who might really, really need to take a year off and work or travel or do something instead of just going schlump right into Harvard, schlump into the law career, schlump into the respected member of the community who donates so much to charity so on and so forth. You know, the cracks in his perfect surface are a little harder to see, but they're there. And the mother, she had a car accident the year before. So she has been taking, not Dayquil, but Jagged Little Pills to get her through. More and more of them. And now she's getting hooked on them in a very, very big and serious way, which is really the arc of the show. And they have an adopted African-American daughter. And she's great, but she's kind of a rebel, and she's bisexual, and she doesn't really necessarily fit in or feel that she fits in with a family. I mean, they treat her great, and they tell her they love her, but she always feels that she's being the square peg being pushed into their round hole. That she has to kind of fit in to something that she doesn't know she really wants to fit into fully and all the way. So you would figure, okay, is this really enough for a musical? Because these feel like more kitchen sink family dysfunctional drama things. But because you've got the rock music, because you've got these songs by Alanis Morissette that spring out of this story, and the songs that Morissette even says were written very often to be dialogues in her own head, her talking to herself or talking to someone else and them talking back. Very often they flow very naturally out of the scene in this musical, in Jagged Little Pill. And the songs generally work. If I have, and I'm a critic, so I'm going to have my caveats. My caveats are that I wasn't necessarily the prime audience for the original Alanis Morissette album. I bought the album, I listened to it. Some of the songs got me, they're catchy. You Ought to Know is great. Everybody Sings One Hand in My Pocket. I mean, but I wasn't the teenage girl who was looking to these songs to extricate her from the crap that's going on in her own family, in her own head. I was a teenager, male or female. So I was already someone in his 20s, late 20s when this album came out. So for me, it was just about music and discovering this new talent rather than, oh my God, this person is trying to reach me very deeply by reaching into herself and vomiting up her feelings and vomiting up the stuff that's in her journals, where she really was. I was listening to an interview with her where she said, I mean, she would do a take on the original album and get it out there and just do it full steam, full blast ahead. And then she would just curl up on the floor crying for 15 minutes just because the exhaustion and the ability to just get it out there when it was all bottled up inside her, and to have it come out and work as a song, as music, and very exciting rock and roll music. It just made her, she would just tell Glenn and the engineers in the recording studio, I need my crying time. Yeah, and then they would be very discreet and just go about playing cards or something, or give her space until she was ready to work on the next song. So where am I going with this? Where I'm going with this is that these songs really do help tell the story. The problem is, for me, not knowing all of these songs, and even the ones I do know, not really knowing all the lyrics. It's very hard to hear them sometimes in the musical. Again, it could be a function of my hearing at this point, because I don't have full hearing in both my ears anymore. But, and you know, it is ever thus with frequencies. Like when the father sings, I hear every word he says clear as a bell, a proverbial cliched bell. When some of the young teenager characters sing, I'm like, I know they're enunciating, I know they're articulating, but damned if I can make out the lines that they're singing. So that kind of takes away some of the enjoyment. And there are times when they push a little too hard in terms of, oh, well, we want this to be a big finale of the song, or a big emotional moment, so we're just going to make everything 5 times louder at the end of the song. Instead of just using the energy and the meaning and the feeling of the song to convey the feelings that are going through these characters. Instead, then sometimes they'll be like, okay, let's just bump up the volume, and that'll really like push everything to the next level, to in Spinal Tap talk, pushing things to 11. That being said, and being said that the musical is a little overstuffed at 2 hours and 45 minutes, could use some cutting here and there. All of that aside, it is very often thrilling. And some of that goes to Alanis Morissette's songs. Some of that goes to Diablo Cody's book, which is often funny and sometimes harrowing and sad and clever and sometimes forced, but mostly really tying all the pieces together. It is also due amazingly to the direction and choreography of this piece. I mean, Diane Paulus is just the best we've got going out there right now. I've never heard this person's name, but the choreography is by someone named Sidi Larbi Chakawi, which is not something from F Troop. Sidi Larbi Chakawi. And the choreography absolutely mimics and mirrors the anxiety and the terrible feelings of these teenage characters, the mom character as well. This feeling of the way the arms move, the herky-jerky motions of some of these fantastic dancers that they have in the show. And I'm not a big choreography person. I've never liked dance or modern dance, but in this show it's hugely important. It's incredibly expressive of the way these characters are coping, or in certain cases, no longer coping with what is facing them. There's an extraordinary scene between the mother and her doppelganger. And all it is, I mean, it doesn't take millions of dollars of set designs, and it's just her and and a dancer and a couch. And she's basically wrestling with herself in a way on this couch. And if I tell you, it was harrowing and moving and beautifully done. And there's also another scene, I don't want to give it away, but there's a scene in the first act where the mother takes her pill, her mother's little helper, to get her through the next few hours, to keep her life perfect while she's on this fentanyl and oxycodone and what have you. And at that moment, something happens with the scene and the choreography that is just, you sit there with your jaw open for the next 3-4 minutes of like, oh my God, this is genius, right? There is some genius in this production of Jagged Little Pill. So I'm giving it 3.5 stars for the extraordinarily fluid and sometimes breathtaking direction and choreography. The cast is terrific. Elizabeth Stanley is very believable as she goes from being perfect suburban housewife mom to really a drug addict essentially, and someone who is going to literally scrape the depths and go a little bit lower. Yeah, I mean, what else can I say about it? Probably if I was a little more compos mentis and my head weren't exploding with phlegm, I would be able to tell more about Jagged Little Pill, but I will tell you right now, go see it. And this is from someone who wasn't expecting to really think much of it, and who was being like, oh no, not another musical about high school. Christ, I mean, isn't Mean Girls and Be More Chill and The Lightning Thief and more and more and more and more. Believe it, this is the one that you need to see first. It's Jagged Little Pill on Broadway. It just opened, and I am hoping that it will do very well. And for the moment, this would be my pick of musical of the year in terms of, like, it's way early to talk about the Tony Awards, but this blows Moulin Rouge out of the water, in my personal estimation. And they're very different types of jukeboxy musicals, but this is the one to beat right now. It is Jagged Little Pill on Broadway. Well, speaking of Broadway, let me tell you about something that I do that I was thinking about no longer doing, but people who love it convinced me to keep doing it. I talked about this last week. I am the publisher now of the long-running journal, Performing Arts Insider, The Bible of Broadway. It's been around since 1944, and it is a compendium of listings of all the shows on, off, and off Broadway. So every single show on all the stages of New York. Detailed information as well as a chronological calendar listing. They're all in the pages every month of Performing Arts Insider. Now, I was going to give it up because I'm busy. I'm working a full-time job. My co-publisher, he passed away last year. I was like, you know what? Enough. I'm not making really any money doing this. Why the hell am I still doing it? And then I would run into people, my subscribers, at the theater, because these are people, these are theater critics and theater owners and theater bookers for places around the country. And I would see them. And they'd say, Dave, no, tell us it's not true that you're stopping this. We need this. There's no other place. Pardon me. That we can get all this information in such a handy guide. I mean, I've always said that you can open 20 windows on your computer and look for most of the information in Performing Arts Insider. It'd take you a while. It'd be really annoying to have to do. Why not just flip open a copy of Performing Arts Insider and boom, find it on a page, or find it using the index in the back or the table of contents in the front. And in between, as I mentioned, our day-by-day calendar listings, and look at all the extraordinary information. Let me find Jagged Little Pill, as a matter of fact, since I just talked about it. Do we have it? Where is it? Hold on. Here it is. Look at this. And this is an older issue already. This is the October issue. But here, look at all that info for just one show. All the creatives, all the folks who wrote it, designed it, worked on it, a synopsis of the show, the cast members, of course, some notes about the show, some trivia about the show, and then all the producers, who they are. Let me hold it open this way then. Their contact information, the press agents, the production stage manager, the, what else we have there? Who does the original cast album. Again, you don't get this information really anywhere else. And then, of course, what theater it's in, the address, how many seats it's got, and when shows open, close, and start previews. That was just for Jagged Little Pill. Imagine that for every single show on, off, and off Broadway. That's what we do and have been doing in Performing Arts Insider since 1944. And if you want to get a copy or subscribe to our monthly edition 12 times a year, just go to performingartsinsider.com, performingartsinsider.com. And again, it's an expensive journal. It's not like a People magazine that you can pick up for $4 at the newsstand. But people who get this, they love it, as I've said, and they renew year after year because it's really the only place they get this info in such a fantastically handy way, or in any way, come to think of it. Performingartsinsider.com. It is hard copy, right? Well, we don't have the magazine online. By the physical hard copy issue, although if you want to spend a little less money and save some trees from being cut down, you can opt for the email-only subscription, which is where we'll send you a PDF copy of the magazine rather than the hard copy. But it's all at performingartsinsider.com, the Bible of Broadway. Well, we're going inside Broadway on Dave's Gone By on this Saturday, December 14th, 2019. It's 10:30 in the morning here in the East Coast Daverhood. Welcome to Jeffrey and Jay, Pam, Gina, Deb, Phyllis, Michael, and all the folks who were tuning in before and folks whose names I can't even see. It's great to see you. We're talking about Broadway as best I can as I battle this horrendous head cold. But so I apologize if my thoughts are even more random and scattered than usual, but we're powering through. And I can't end this segment without saying 4 farewells. It was a difficult week on Broadway for theater lovers. We have to say goodbye to 4 different people who passed away from the Broadway community this past week. First of all, farewell to Richard Easton, who died at the age of 86. He was a Tony winner for Tom Stoppard's play The Invention of Love, Canadian-born, and he worked with a repertory company in Ottawa before going to London. And then he started doing, when he first hit Broadway, he did classics back in the 1950s, like Measure for Measure and Taming of the Shrew, The Country Wife and the Duchess of Malfi. And what's interesting is he took like a 30-year break. I don't know if he was at like Stratford or the Shaw Fest or Shakespeare Fests or things like that. And he did some film and TV, but he didn't make it back to Broadway for 30 years until he started doing Stoppard plays back in 2001. He was also in The Coast of Utopia. His last show on Broadway was a 2012 Macbeth, but he was inducted into the Theater Hall of Fame back in 2008. So we say farewell to Richard Easton. We also want to say farewell to René Auberjonois, who passed away at the age of 79 this week from lung cancer. Now, if you can't picture him, the name doesn't even ring a bell, just think of the original Robert Altman movie of MASH and the original Father Mulcahy. That was René Auberjonois. He was also the chief of staff on the TV show Benson, and he played Odo on Star Trek Deep Space Nine. I'm a theater guy. I don't care about any of that stuff. He was of Swiss origin, and he first reached Broadway in 1968 through the repertory of Lincoln Center, where he played, check this out, he was the fool to the King Lear of Lee J. Cobb. Not too shabby. And he won a Tony for appearing in the Katharine Hepburn show Coco. He was also in the Neil Simon play The Good Doctor on Broadway, which also featured Frances Sternhagen, Christopher Plummer, and Marcia Mason. He played the Duke in the musical Big River. He played Mikhail Baryshnikov's father in Metamorphosis, which I remember seeing that years ago. That was very good. He was in City of Angels on Broadway. He was in the big flop Dance of the Vampires on Broadway. And he played opposite Richard Dreyfuss in Larry Gelbart's adaptation of Volpone called Sly Fox. All of that. Just some of the credits of the late René Auberjonois, who passed away this past week. And I think you've heard about this one. We did lose Danny Aiello at the age of 86 this week. He died on Thursday. Really the ultimate ethnic character actor, wasn't he? I mean, and what a life he had. His father left his mother because she was going blind. And he kind of bailed on the family, although Danny Aiello and his dad later kind of reconciled. He never forgave the dad fully, but at least they had some kind of rapprochement. Danny enlisted in the Army, came out, and he became a bouncer at the comedy club The Improv, back in the 1970s. And then we really know him from his film career. He was in Bang the Drum Slowly, Woody Allen's The Purple Rose of Cairo. He won an Oscar, rightfully so, for Do the Right Thing. He was terrific. He was in the movie City Hall, and he was the Papa in Madonna's video Papa Don't Preach. So Danny Aiello, okay, that's all the theater and TV stuff, the movies and TV stuff. What about the theater? Well, in 1977, He was in that big hit Gemini with Ree Burney and Jonathan Hadari. You want to talk about two people who are still acting every year on Broadway. They're still out there, so yay. In fact, pardon me. I just saw Jonathan Hadari, who was the best thing in the revival of, second best thing. Michael Urie is probably the best thing in the revival of Tony Kushner's A Bright Room Called Day at the Public Theater. I don't have time to review that today, but yeah, it's nice to know that those two are still going forward. But they were in Gemini back in 1977, along with the late Danny Aiello. He made his Broadway debut in a play called Lamppost Reunion in 1975. It actually had a 2-month run. Gabe Dell, one of the Bowery Boys, was in that show. Speaking of Woody Allen, in 1981, Woody Allen wrote a play called The Floating Light Bulb that appeared on Broadway, and Danny Aiello was in that. In 1986, he was in John Guare's The House of Blue Leaves. And then in 2017, this is kind of unfortunate, his last Broadway appearance was in this flop that everybody made fun of. I did not get to see. But there was this show called Home for the Holidays 2 years ago, where it was this mix of holiday music and caroling and kind of American Idol type voices doing an Andy Williams-ish Christmas show on Broadway with Danny Aiello telling stories about Christmas from his childhood. And the critics went and they were like, this is, I mean, it probably meant something very personal and nice to Danny Aiello. We'll give him that. We'll give him that he wanted to share these meaningful, nice, wistful, his version of Dylan Thomas's Christmas memories, right, for him in this show on Broadway. But that was the last Broadway show for the late Danny Aiello, who passed away at the age of 86 this past Thursday. And we do have one more farewell to say from the theatrical Daverhood to William Luce, 88 years old. He died on Tuesday from complications owing to Alzheimer's disease. Now, we talk about play. All these other folks are very often most known for movies and TV, but he was a playwright. Man, whatever you thought of his plays, he made his bones doing theater. And his one biggest claim to fame, he was the guy who wrote The Belle of Amherst. Apparently, he wanted to do a play about Emily Dickinson and her life and her personality, her career. And he wrote this play with like 15 characters in it, and it just didn't work at all. And then he was having lunch with another playwright or some friend of his, and the friend just said, you know what? You're a storyteller. Just tell her stories or have her tell her stories to us and clear up all the clutter. And he did. He turned it into a one-woman show, and it became his meal ticket. It has played millions of times all over the world and became maybe the best-known theatrical vehicle for Julie Harris. Of course, I believe Julie Harris won the Tony for her fifth Tony in 1975 for appearing in The Belle of Amherst. Well, William Luce wrote that. He also wrote other plays about Lillian Hellman. He wrote a play, boring as all get out, play called Lucifer's Child about Isak Dinesen. And then he wrote the not-so-boring Barrymore, which featured Christopher Plummer back in 1997. And he wrote a lot of plays about historical folks. Not all of them made it to Broadway, but he did a play about General Patton and Zelda Fitzgerald and Charlotte Bronte. And here's what he said about writing solo, about writing one-person plays, where it's just that historical personage talking directly to us. William Luce wrote, quote, "When I listen to music, I prefer a solo instrument. And when it comes to performers, I love to write for the solo voice. In my personal life, I don't like to be with crowds. I prefer one or two friends." So he sort of used that idea. He used that aesthetic and then ended up creating The Belle of Amherst and a whole lot more. So we're very grateful that we've had William Luce writing these plays, and we do bid him farewell from the theatrical Daverhood here on Dave's Gone By, which concludes our segment Inside Broadway here on this December 14th, 2019.
It's the famous gay white way where the night is bright as day. Ain't Broadway grand? It's not just a thoroughfare, it's a tingle in the air. Ain't Broadway grand? It's excitement, it's romance, it's all fun and song and dance. This wonderland. You can be a millionaire quicker here than anywhere. Ain't Broadway grand?
Broadway certainly is grand, ladies and gentlemen. It's also grand that we have had, since the very first episode of Dave's Gone By, sponsors helping this program, the main ones being Hewlett Minuteman Press, the copy kings, of Broadway on Long Island since 1977. The Toron family has owned and operated this franchise of Minuteman Press, which you see all over the place, but they've got the Hewlett one, and they're a wonderful family. Carlene and Miles Toron, they took it over in the mid-1970s. Miles passed away a couple of years ago. Carlene, she's still there. She's the mama. Her two sons run the business now. They do high-quality work, reasonable turnaround times, reasonable prices, even more reasonable. And if you tell them Dave sent you, you get 10% off any job, big or small. So give them a call, 516-569-5577, area code 516-569-5577. Why should you do that? Remember that Minuteman Press is not just a copy place. These are folks who will take your banner, take your logo, your company name, and put that on everything from uniforms to costumes to pen and pencil sets to sporting equipment to sportswear to banners and flyers. If you have a way to get word out about your business, Minuteman Press can help you. And they're also known for their holiday cards. This is the time. Send out your nice Christmas and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and Festivus cards. Plus, they're also known for wedding invitations and quinceañera things and stuff like that, too. Give them a call, 516-569-5577, Hewlett Minuteman Press. They are the copy kings. And I do feel like king of the world certainly when I'm feeling better than I feel right now. But when I do this program every week, every Saturday, here in the Daverhood, it's called Dave's Gone By. I'm Dave Lefkowitz. This is our it's our 600. Wait, no, what is it? I knew the Tylenol would start to work on me. It is our 724th episode of the show. We're calling it MUCUS to My Ears. It is our last Saturday before winter starts, I believe, unless next Saturday is. I think winter starts on the 20th. So yeah, and we certainly got that wonderful winter weather happening out there, which may be partially to explain why I look and sound the way I do on this Saturday morning. But I've been trying to get through the show, and I've been managing. So we still have our Colorado Limerick of the Damned coming up, as well as our Friends of the Daverhood segment. But before then, I don't want to keep Cynthia and Jeff waiting any longer, because one thing that we like to do is have our Today-Yesterday quiz. And this is where we ask some trivia questions, and your job, should you choose to accept it, is to try and answer the questions. No fair Googling, no fair Binging or Wikiing. Just try and see, because that makes it a whole lot tougher. A lot of times things are right on the tip of our tongue. We know this, but when actually called upon to respond, it's like, ugh. So we got about 8 questions for you in our Today-Yesterday quiz. So Cynthia, Jeff, are you there? Are you with me? Yes, indeed. So here's the deal. You guys play against Cynthia and Jeff, because they tend to be the first people to respond and chime in and say, hey, okay, here's our answer. And I'm always right. So there's that aspect too. But if you think you know the answer and you want to just type it to me right here on Facebook, do it and see if you can beat Cynthia and Jeff, who generally do pretty well on the quiz. It is called, excuse me, it is called Today, Yesterday, and we're doing it today, December 14th, 2019. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we know there's an answer, but can you come up with the answers in our quiz, our weekly quiz, today, yesterday, here on Dave's Gone By? Okay, today, yesterday, 1903. The very first heavier-than-air aircraft took flight today. Where did it happen? I will repeat that. In 1903, on December 14th, they did the very first heavier-than-air aircraft taking flight today. Where did that happen? Yum, bum, 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 bum. Hold on, I got my handy xylophone ready to do the count off. And I'll give you a few seconds. Usually I wait for Cynthia and Jeff to come up with an answer, and then we gauge against them. And the answer is yes. Well done, Cynthia and Jeff. The answer is Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, which is where the Wright brothers flew their Wright Flyer plane. So, yeah, 1 for 1 so far, Cynthia and Jeff. It wasn't in North Carolina, Kitty Hawk. Okay, up for our second question in our Today Yesterday quiz, going back to 1957. After 678 performances, oh yes, it's a theater question, 678 performances at Broadway's Imperial Theater, this Frank Lesser operatic musical about an Italian farmer and his mail-order bride ended its run today. Name the show. Okay, so today something didn't open, it closed on Broadway in 1957 on this date, and it was an operatic musical by Frank Lesser, all about this Italian farmer and a mail-order bride. Can you name the musical? See if I have to standing on the corner, watching all the girls go by. It's kind of a hint there in case you're you. So I'm waiting for Cynthia and Jeff. I'm gonna have to give a countdown. Oh dear. It's well, he was the most happy fella in the whole Napa Valley. Yes, the name of the show was Most Happy Fella, which was a very unusual and interesting musical for its time, because it was as much an opera as a standard musical by the guy who gave us the very great Guys and Dolls, but few shows are greater. And what else did Frank Lesser do? Green Willow and sorry, my brain is just not functioning right. But anyway, Frank Lesser's Most Happy Fella closed today on Broadway all those years ago. Okay, Cynthia and Jeff, you're 1-1. I know you're not theater people like I am. Let's see where our next question goes in our Today Yesterday quiz. Speaking of operas by composers who usually work in other genres, in 1911, Scott Joplin wrote his only complete operatic work. It finally debuted on Broadway in 1975 and closed at the Uris Theater yesterday. It closed today in 1975. Name this mix of ragtime, ballet, and spirituals set on a former slave plantation. So there, this is not an easy one either. Kind of got to know your old-time music there. So you have Scott Joplin, of course, the king of ragtime, one of the real creators, if you will, along with Jelly Roll Morton of ragtime. But now he's branching out. Now he's trying to do something much greater and grander and putting together a whole opera with elements of ragtime and spirituals, etc., and so forth. What was it called? I'm gonna give a couple more seconds. See if Cynthia and Jeff can pull this one out of the ozone. The only Scott Joplin opera, although he did some pieces for shorter things and excerpts. Do we have anything? We have to start giving a countdown. And again, apologies for all the stuff that is coming out of my face as I'm trying to do this. Oh, Cynthia and Jeff. Nope, they're not even going to take a guess. And the name of Scott Joplin's opera was Tremonisha, which apparently, I didn't realize that it did so well in 1975. Apparently, it was a lost classic of sorts. So there. Okay, Cynthia and Jeff are 1 and 2. I don't know how all the rest of you are doing, but we're moving through doing more questions in our Today-Yesterday quiz. In 1967, on this date, December 14th, a team of biochemists at Stanford University announced that they had done this, and this is a multiple choice. Did they create a vaccine to combat rubella, German measles? Did they do the first successful in vitro fertilization leading to pregnancy? Did they synthesize DNA in a test tube? Or did they take a cell from a sheep, put it into another sheep, and that embryo grew into Dolly, the very first clone? So what happened yesterday, back in 1967? Was it, scientists at Stanford University did this. Was it a rubella umbrella vaccine? Was it the first successful in vitro fertilization? Did they synthesize DNA in a test tube? Or did they essentially start the process of cloning that led to Dolly the sheep? What happened yesterday in 1967? Ooh, they're tough this week. Give it some thought while I blow some mucus out of my face. God. Any luck? Kind of waiting for this, and it is a multiple choice, so you get to take a stab. Just give me a moment, folks, while you're thinking. I'll be right back. All right, any luck? Do we have an answer from Cynthia and Jeff? Okay, we do have an answer, and pardon me while I lube up my nostrils, just because, look how red they are. Hold on. Okay, I'm gonna give a little shine to my nose, but it feels so good. Okay, we have an answer from Cynthia and Jeff. Now, this is interesting. Very often, Cynthia and Jeff will split, and one will give one answer and another will give another answer. So Cynthia says that yesterday in 1967 was when they created the rubella, the German measles vaccine. Jeff says that today's the day that they synthesized DNA in a test tube. And the answer is, it's the initials, DNA. That's what happened this week. Measles was a couple of years later. The in vitro fertilization was actually 10 years after this. So, and Dolly came later too. So yes, this was the DNA day, December 14th, 1967. So let's see, I think Jeff is 2 and 2. Cynthia is 1 and 3. But you can have some opportunities to get back into the game, as it were, as we move on with more of Yesterday. 1969, though written by John Denver, this sad song, which hit #1 on the Billboard charts today, was a big hit for Peter, Paul, and Mary. Can you name the song? Okay, song written by John Denver, but Peter, Paul, and Mary's cover version was the huge hit, and it hit #1 on the Billboard charts today, back in 1969. What is the song? You know, it's not Boogie Oogie Oogie. And no, it's not You Oughta Know. What might the song be? And we have an answer from Cynthia and Jeff. Oh, God. Get through the show, Dave. Just get through the show. And the answer, yes, it is correct, is I'm leaving on a jet plane don't know when I'll be back again. Yes, indeed, John Denver wrote that song, but it was Peter, Paul, and Mary who took it, and it was their biggest all-time hit, Leaving on a Jet Plane, which, by the way, they first recorded for an album in 1967, but they didn't put it out as a single until 1969, when it became their last #1 hit and their biggest hit of all time. Okay, we're moving on to 1984 now for our next Today, Yesterday question. 1984, well, it's the end of an era when this sportscaster, the grandson of a rabbi, retires after 15 years on ABC's Monday Night Football. Known for his blustery style, he also broke the news of John Lennon's death to the world. Name him. I'm sure Cynthia and Jeff will remember this one. But to all of you, who is this sportscaster from Monday Night Football who retired on this date in 1984? Oh, wow, we have an answer very quickly on this one. Here we go. Very well done, Cynthia and Jeff. The answer is Howard Cosell. I knew he was Jewish. I did not realize he came from a rabbinical family of sorts. And Cosell also known for really injecting himself and his own personality into supposedly objective reporting. And of course, the way he kind of tagged along as Muhammad Ali's almost aide de camp, even as a journalist. But yes, Howard Cosell retired back in 1984 on this date. Okay, here we go. Got a couple more questions in our Today, Yesterday quiz. Today, Yesterday, 1993. Premiering today, Tom Hanks and Denzel Washington both play lawyers in this film. Directed by Jonathan Demme, it is one of the first commercial movies to deal with the AIDS crisis. Name the movie. Okay, Jonathan Demme film starring Tom Hanks and Denzel Washington. What is this groundbreaking film? Because it's a commercial film that dealt with gay life and with AIDS. Can you name it? Yeah, I got some Springsteen fans out there. You are correct. It was Philadelphia. Well, so Cynthia and Jeff are really battling back. You guys are doing all right now. We have one more question in our Today, Yesterday quiz. Today, Yesterday. Oh, God, what a one to end with. Today, Yesterday in Connecticut. 26 people. This is, by the way, in 2012. 26 people were killed, including 20 children, by a 20-year-old who had already killed his mother earlier that morning. What was the name of the school where the carnage went down? So this is, doesn't feel like that long ago already, but it was like 6 years ago, right? Jeepers. 2012, on this date, a mass murder in Connecticut, 26 people dead, a lot of children dead. Person who did it was 20 years old at the time. What was the name of the school? Well done, Cynthia and Jeff. It was indeed Sandy Hook Elementary in Newtown, Connecticut. Well, I don't know. I think Jeff kind of rocked it with something like 6 and 8, or 6 and 2, or 7 and 1. We're close to that, and Cynthia did pretty darn well too. I hope. Hold on, folks. I hope you all did pretty well and had fun playing our Today. Told you this thing was going to get to me as the show moved forward. Our Today, Yesterday quiz for December 14th. Good Lord. It's going to be an interesting last few minutes of this broadcast, ladies and gentlemen. You certainly did very well. Applause to all of you for playing along. Applause to Cynthia and Jeff for doing very well in our Today, Yesterday quiz. Damn. Okay. we have, thank goodness, just a little bit more to do on this episode of Dave's Gone By. Dr. Theater is definitely not kicking in at the moment. It got me through the first part of the show, but as we've been rolling forward into now, the show's 2 hours old. It's 11 o'clock Eastern time in the Daverhood. It's definitely this cold is taking its toll on me, obviously. So we have just a little bit more to do. And I mentioned that no, we don't have a special guest on this episode of the program because it gets harder to find guests for around this time of year. I don't know what it is. People are away, or it's the holidays, or busy doing other things. There are times of the year when I have to turn down guests for the show, and I have people thrown at me. I'm like, no. And other times, it's like, God, I'm trying to fill a show just all by my lonesome. And this is it's kind of good that we don't have a guest today because I don't know how well I would have been able to talk to them. But here's the deal. My wife has returned. She's our guest.
You gotta eat your omelet on the air.
I've got to eat my omelet on the air?
And I've also got cough drops and Lysol. I got everything.
Oh, Lysol. I gotta spray down the keyboard here. So, as I said, it's 11:01 now, Eastern time in the Daverhood. You're watching Dave's Gone By, our 724th episode of this podcastio programmio of the stream with me, Dave Lefkowitz. And no, there's no special quote-unquote guests on this episode, but we do like to keep tabs on people who've been on the program in months and years previously, and that is what we call the Friends of the Daverhood. So moving to our Friends of the Daverhood, I want to remind you that now through December 15th, so that's just tomorrow, you can catch Renee Taylor's solo show, My Life on a Diet, at the Broad Street Theater in New Brunswick, New Jersey. They had played off Broadway, but yeah, now if you're in Jersey, you can see Renee Taylor's very funny show, My Life on a Diet. I want to let you know that on Monday, Amanda McBroom and John Buccino, both of whom have been on this program, they're going to be at Birdland together. Oh, yay, tea. Oh, iced tea. Bless your heart.
Sweet sample.
Oh, it's cold, too.
Yes, I got it from Pietà. Do you want to eat your stuff now? Eat it while it's hot.
Well, I'm finishing the show in like 10 minutes.
Okay, good.
So let me, then I'm not going to eat on the air. That will be even more disgusting than what I'm doing on the air right now. Oh, nectar of the gods, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so also on Monday, Noel Coward's little known play, I'll Leave It to You, is getting a staged reading from the Gingold Theater Group featuring our friend Katie Huffman, and that is happening at Symphony Space. On Wednesday, our musical friend Gabrielle Louise will be at the Greeley Warehouse. So a little shout out to our Colorado people still. That's this Wednesday. And then on Thursday, David Broza and his band Trio Havana will be at the Stryker Center on East 65th Street in New York. Also on Thursday, oh boy, Uncle Floyd is playing at the Black Box Performing Arts Center in Englewood, New Jersey. You're going to want to see that. Brad Zimmerman is doing his solo show, My Son the Waiter, at JCAT in Miami Beach, Florida, and that is running from the 19th of December through the 12th of January 2020. Tom Tose is involved in Winter Rhythms. It's a cabaret series at Urban Stages in New York. On the 20th, he has Pete and Maura Kennedy, who were just on our show a couple of weeks ago. And then on the 21st, he presents More Songs of Hope. So Tom Tose getting very much involved in cabaret there. Now through December 21st, Alice Ripley is in a low-key revival, or a low-budget, I should say, revival of Baby. Very nice musical that is being done at the Loft Space on West 45th Street from Out of the Box Theatrics. Ruben Santiago Hudson is directing August Wilson's great play, Jitney. That is in California at the Mark Taper Forum. Now through the end of December, Max McLean is adapting the C.S. Lewis book, The Great Divorce. You can see that on Theater Row. A Christmas Carol on Broadway, it's terrific, by the way, features La Chance as the ghost of Christmas Present. That's at the Lyceum Theater. Tootsie, that's going to be closing on January 5th, so you have only a few more weeks to catch Tootsie, featuring a score by David Yazbek and Julie Holston in the cast. Katsura Sunshine is in Sunshine Rakugo. That is at New World Stages on West 50th Street, playing now extended through the middle of April. Hadestown.
Do you want some tea with honey? And lemon.
With lemon. Oh, is it lemon in it?
Yeah.
That'd be great. Yeah. Sorry. Where are we? Oh, I didn't mention Little Shop of Horrors. Features music by Alan Menken. That is at the West Side Theater off Broadway. Very good revival. Hadestown has Andre DeShields. Hamilton has Daniel Breaker. Irene Sankoff and David Hine co-wrote The Wonderful Come From Away. Danny Burston is in Moulin Rouge. Tim Caruso's Cast Party every Monday night at Birdland. And Evan Seplow is the founder and editor of StageBuddy.com. Dr. Demento still doing new and old Dr. Demento shows at drdemento.com. Charlie Gross and Leslie Hoban Blake, they co-host Two on the Aisle, a theater review show, kind of like a Siskel and Ebert thing that they do on Manhattan Neighborhood Network, which is also where you can watch Eva Heinemann's High Drama. Finally, I want to remind you that you can read Milwaukee Theater Reviews by Ann Siegel, Chicago Theater Reviews by Mary Sheng Barnage, Los Angeles Reviews by Willard Manus, all of them at TotalTheater.com. And if you want to hear podcasts of upstate New York history, you're going to want to go to BobCudmore.com. And those, my friends, are the friends of the Daverhood. Well, ladies and gentlemen, almost done with this show, but can't let you go without being a little bit more cultural. I know we did our Inside Broadway segment earlier, but thank goodness this is a very short segment, so I can still get through it with my throat and my cold. I guess our Colorado, yeah, I'm going to eat after I do our Colorado Limerick of the Damned, ladies and gentlemen, which we do this every week. And what happened was my wife and I were living in Colorado for a number of years, and I just took it into my head to write a short poem about some kind of town or place in Colorado. What, potato? A town or place in Colorado, and do one once a week, because I've got like 70 or 80 of them at this point. And today, we're actually going to go to Radium, Colorado, for our Colorado Limerick of the Damned.
A limerick is a comic verse of 5 lines, in which lines 1, 2, and 5 will end with words that rhyme. And likewise, verses 3 and 4 also end with words that rhyme. So this is a limerick. Rocky Mountain, Colorado.
Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen, I do request that you escort the children from the room for this one, unless they're particularly hip children, because it's a limerick. The whole idea is that it can be a little bit off and risque and outre, if you will. But this is for Radium, Colorado. There's actually a town in Colorado called Radium, which is a cluster of very rural, unincorporated ranching houses near the Colorado River, and it was named for the radium that people were mining there. And by the way, it's just west of Kremling. So if you like Kremling, if you've ever Kremled, this is the place to go. And they've got a hot spring there, but really nothing else. So without further ado or don't, it's time for our Colorado Limerick of the Damned. They cheered that young singer from Radium last week when she played the Palladium. She did a wild dance, then whipped off her pants and fucked everyone in the stadium. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, send your comments and complaints to Dave. That's funnier. The F word's funnier in this context. davesgoneby@aol.com is the email address. davesgoneby@aol.com for your comments, your complaints, your love, how about some sympathy cards, folks? How about some get well wishes as I power through my cold and manage to get through an entire, albeit shortened show today, December 14th, 2019 of Dave's Gone By. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to my darling and wonderful wife, not only for joining me for the first part of the show, but for bringing me food that'll
Buying Lysol
yeah. Oh, and Lysol, which I'm going to spray on the food
and cough
so I
drops
don't get germs on it. And
and soft tissues for our gentle noses.
I don't like tissues. I like hanky puffs. Anyway, God. Oh, I can't. I was going to say a big farewell to Carol Spinney, but maybe I'll talk about that next week.
When you feel better, give her justice. Yeah.
You know, him. He's the guy who was Big Bird and Oscar the Grouch.
Yeah.
And Oscar was a huge influence on me growing up. Yeah, but I do want to bid farewell to Carol Spinney and Oscar because
he's in that big trash can in the sky.
Oh, he is.
There's a little worm.
Oh, remember what was the Slimy the worm, which I showed you mine last night. Hello. Anyway, don't really. Unfortunately, if I were feeling better and if I didn't have like hot food waiting for me, I would tell you about now. But I really need to do some self-care, as they say in these woke times. I need to rest and eat and drink better food and fluids and things and be well and chipper for you next Saturday, December 21st, when we have our 725th episode. Sorry?
Is it Hanukkah?
It will be the Hanukkah edition. I think that it starts the middle of that week.
Nice.
Yeah. So it'll be a Hanukkah, which is perfect timing because our guest the week after will be, well, our guest on December 21st, next Saturday, is Marty Brownstein, who has written a book called Two Among the Righteous Few, just in time for Hanukkah. Has to do with non-Jewish people who helped save Jews during World War II. And he knows it's true. This isn't one of those situations where somehow every French person in World War II was in the resistance. And every German didn't actually join the Hitler Youth, or they were forced to. They didn't really believe in Hitler, right? Yeah. In this particular case, he has reasons for telling this story and why he knows these people very, very personally. So it should be well, I wouldn't say fun, but it should be a very interesting interview with Marty Brownstein next Saturday, December 21st, 2019. So until then, bundle up and enjoy the winter because it's going to get coldish out there. I hope to be with you in full blast, in full bloom, a week from today for a brand new, delightful, and exciting episode of the Dave's Gone By Facebookio, Podcastio, Programmio of the stream. Well, try and get my music up there. Where's my outro? There it is. Courtesy of Dave J. Just wishing you a very happy time, happy almost Hanukkah to all of you. And may all your hibachis sizzle. Wow, I'm just, well, because it ties in with what I was talking about.
All your potatoes have faces.
And may all your potatoes have actual faces that are happier and nicer than the scary ones that I will be putting up here amidst all my other potatoes. All right. So. Have a wonderful week. Farewell to you all temporarily for 7 days and gone by.
Days gone by, days gone by, days gone by, days gone by.
Well, we made it. I did it. And now I'm going to collapse and probably sleep in a hospital or something. No, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'll see you better than ever next week. Have a great one and gone by.